The NFL has suspended its controversial new policy.
That policy required players to stand. The league will now negotiate with the players' union over a new policy.
What Colin did was find out a way to bring up the conversation and force a conversation, really. It's up to us to stay focused, to make sure that the issues and topics stay at the forefront. That is what this all started from, and that's what we'll continue to fight about.
For Philadelphia Eagles safety Malcolm Jenkins, this is what the fight is all about.
The greatest impact is to work together, use our platform.
On the first Sunday of the NFL season, Jenkins called a listen and learn session in Philadelphia, a meeting with business, community, and government leaders. On the agenda, bail reform and jobs.
There are so many people in our networks that can start to work on their issues.
He's asking everyone at the table for help.
This is not the sexy story that everybody wants to see, and it's not a headline grabber.
Nope.
But these meetings and the things that you are doing in the community, this is the change that you are trying to enact.
We're learning the ins and outs of our justice system and changing minds as we go.
What has been the most surprising thing that you've learned so far?
That it's really not that tough of a change. When you look at politics, it really comes down to priority. We've talked to lawmakers all over the place that would agree that a lot of these reforms need to change, would agree that things are unfair or a little unjust, but if voters aren't clamoring about it, then it's not high enough on the priority to change things.
I am Doug Baldwin, and I am here again as a concerned citizen.
2 years ago, an alliance of NFL players formed to take the sideline protests to state capitals across the country. This past offseason, the group, now officially known as the Players Coalition, successfully lobbied for criminal justice reform bills in 3 states. In April, Massachusetts raised the juvenile detention age from 7 to 12. In May, the Louisiana State Senate passed a law restoring voting rights to people convicted of a felony who've been on probation or parole for 5 years. And in June, players successfully lobbied Pennsylvania lawmakers in Harrisburg to pass the Clean Slate Act, which seals the records of people with misdemeanors after 10 years, along with those arrested but not convicted of a crime.
You know, the 3 pieces of legislation, this is real substantive stuff. I mean, in 3 different markets all around the U.S.
Chris Long is one of Jenkins' teammates working alongside him for change, including donating his base salary from last season to charity.
I'll always remember this because I was just getting in the coalition, and it was after a Monday night game. We get on a train at 7 in the morning. We go to Harrisburg, and I pulled one of the representatives aside. I was like, "Does this really help?" I was like, "Do you guys really care what we say?" And the dude's like, "Absolutely." He's like, "Y'all need to come back more often. You'd be surprised. I know it's not right that people just listen to football players, but people are listening to football players. And when you guys come here, there's a buzz." And to hear that reinforcement was like, okay, well, we can really affect change.
That once we were able to lend our platform, our voices, and be able to sit down with legislators, it made a big difference. And so that's why we laugh when people say stick to the sports, because we see firsthand how much impact we can have.
By not sticking to sports.
If we stuck to sports, I think the world would be a lot more boring and a lot less productive.
Are you upset with the White House and the president for canceling the trip?
But not everyone has been listening.
What are we listening to?
Compelling Malcolm Jenkins to hold posters in front of his locker this summer highlighting the issues, like the disproportionate number of African Americans shot by police, or the 500,000 people in jail because they can't afford to post bail.
And just as a message that we have to stay on topic, because we're purposely choosing to overlook what it is that players have been even fighting for. Because we've been very articulate and very patient and consistent with police brutality, systemic racism, education, housing, and yet we'll continuously hear this dialogue. Players don't know what they're doing, or they're not organized, or they're anti-military.
Why are you disrespecting the military?
Yeah. It's nonsense.
And those statistics and those things that are on those poster cards, people don't want to hear about it. That literally left people no choice but to air that.
When we do talk, we'll rattle off those same statistics, but the only thing that ends up in the article is my opinions on the president or the NFL or the anthem. So in order to get the words that we want out there, we have to be creative in a way that we control that message.
We had great deal of focus on the social justice issue.
The NFL is lending its backing to the Players Coalition with a social justice partnership, Earlier this month, Commissioner Roger Goodell attended a listen and learn session in New Orleans, and the league has pledged $89 million in support.
What does that money mean to you?
It's money that we can now give to the people who are doing this work. There are grassroots organizations that need help and need support. When the NFL came to us, we just said, we want your support, and here's how you can support us. But not only with the money, because you can cut a check for however much you want. We also want their platform. And we want the voice. And the same way that they highlight issues like breast cancer for an entire month, or Salute to Service, or all of these other initiatives that we've seen them promote and put their weight behind. 70% of people in jail have never been convicted of a crime.
Do you think that you're risking your careers by being a part of the Players Coalition, by taking stands?
I'm pretty
like
old, so I
I was
can't
gonna say, yeah, this is what, year 10? Yeah.
I can end at any point.
You know, it's my 10th year. This is your
11th.
11th. So we're on the back end of our careers. But what we're trying to create years from now, players that come into the league, whether they're rookies, don't have to worry about, oh, if I get politically active in my community, that it somehow affects my job. No longer is that vilified, but that's almost the standard.
Is all that you're doing good for the game of football?
Not my concern.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about it. Football provides a livelihood for not only us, but the other 2,000 players that are in the league and those to come and those who came before us. So we never want to do anything that's going to damage the game. But at the end of the day, the lives of everyday Americans are more important than my ability to make a living, which even if it was damaged a little bit would still be a great living. So when you compare the two, I think for me, that's a simple choice.